Health and wellness are more than a destination. They are a process and a journey of personal choice. Come hear from people out in the field, doing the work, bringing health and wellness to many. Welcome. Today we're going to talk about a subject that is near and dear to my heart. And it's actually a subject that I've been interested in my whole life. It is something that is a lifetime process. This is a subject to find your true purpose. So I have a couple questions for you. Are you happy? Are you fulfilled? Is your life bringing you what you wanted it to bring you? Are your deepest desires clear for you? Are you finding a road, a path that somewhere you feel it's going somewhere? Or do you feel stuck and a bit lost? You know, that can happen to us along the way. It has happened to me. I'm sure it has happened to most everyone. But if I'm speaking to you today, then this month I hope we can explore this together and we can kind of look to solutions and things that I have learned along my way that have really helped. Sometimes in my life, as I have had these moments where I felt a bit lost, what I've learned at that moment is that my whole being, body, mind, and spirit, were actually not in alignment with what I really wanted and desired inside. Something had taken me off my path, a distraction. Maybe it was a fear, or maybe it was a worry. I remember a time when I lived next to Walter Reed Medical Center. It was a big center with a lot of hospitals, and I was always very intrigued. I was a young girl in my teenage time, and I was always looking at those hospitals, and it was sort of calling. It was a light. Every time I looked at them, it lightened up. I had no idea I wanted to be a nurse or that I was interested in the field of medicine, but it was interesting that when I would walk by, I would be looking at those hospitals. And one day we got an invitation. Actually, they opened a new medical center to go and look at the medical center. And I remember thinking, Dad, look what came. I was so interested, and I had passion. I remember the feeling. It was like an awakening or a quickening inside me. And I said, Dad, will you take me on that tour? I want to go. I didn't know why I wanted to go. It just made me kind of excited to be there. And so he did. He took me, and it was really fun. We went on this little tour, and I remember I was on the wards of the hospital, and it is passion. I had sort of a feeling that I had never had before. And it was a feeling of calling, like really exciting. I was watching the doctors and the nurses, and I was watching the patients, and my heart, I felt it in my heart. It was just calling me to be in that situation. So one of the things I've learned about passion is, are you listening to your heart? Are you listening? And many of us, we don't listen because we've actually blocked ourselves off from our heart. And that's because so much pain has happened to us and we've become distracted. So what I've come to find out over many years is that being on earth and living, life is sort of like a school. It's a place that we're here to learn. And you could say, okay, what am I here to learn? And that's the funny thing, because most of the time we think we're just here to learn these knowledge, learn information. But actually, we're here to learn much deeper things and much more important things as we handle big obstacles like limitations and emotions that are not so easy for us to handle. So life is a journey, and we have each our own unique theme. We're all different. And so if you couldn't say my theme is your theme. Some of us are here really to learn about communication. Others are here to learn about, love on a very, very deep level. So we all have unique journeys. And the question is, are you aware of your life theme? Because that's where it all begins, finding your passion. Our stories and experiences that we have every day, they serve us. They teach us. That's where we're learning. So look at your stories. Do you like them? Many times we don't like them. Many times we do like them. But I'm asking you to think of that today. Are you liking your story right now? Your story's there to show you something about you. How are you leading your story? Are you aware that you're leading your story? And what is your theme in the sense of, are you in alignment with the stories that are presenting themselves and what you're learning and what you need to learn? Or are you thinking to yourself, this thing that's showing up has nothing to do with me, and it's actually just irritating me. I wish it would go away. Yeah, I often think that. It's so frustrating to have a story showing up that feels bad, that makes you feel unhappy and feel disconnected. So ultimately, the stories that are making us the happiest are the stories that we feel connected to something. And the stories that, make us feel unhappy are there to teach us. They're usually our greatest stories, the ones we remember later. Later in your life, when people ask you questions like, you do tell them about the happy times and they're wonderful, but the truth is, you're going to remember the hard ones, aren't you? That's what I found. I remember the hard stories, the ones that have been very, very difficult and have challenged me. And the thing I've learned is that what you don't learn keeps showing up again. You keep having the same story in another with different players. So you might have one job and then all the players are there, and then you haven't really learned that story. So you go to a new job thinking it's all going to be different. But actually, since you haven't learned, and we repeat what we do not learn, then you're in the next job and the same things are happening. And you're thinking, oh my, what is happening here? But it's so important to ask the question then, what am I to learn here? And when you look inside, you'll get answers. That inner voice, I always think it's funny to talk to myself, but when we do talk to ourselves, we do get answers. Let's talk a little bit about desires. So many times we are not even connected to our desires. Maybe we think, we're not worthy to have a desire, or maybe we feel that if we were to have a desire, well, what's the use anyway, because it's just not going to come true because it hasn't come true. And so we get discouraged and we can lose faith in this aspect. Desires are important though, because they tell us who we are and what we're longing for. It's extremely important to get in touch with those desires and to ask yourself, do you dream? Do you dream a dream for yourself based on what you desire? Because that's what passion's all about, finding a dream to go to somewhere. If you have no dream, then life becomes very hard. And when you have a dream and the dream fills you and you're in alignment with the dream, life becomes joyful. Sometimes, we forget that we are the creator, that what we think about and what we do makes a huge impact on where we go. And you know what we do? We live someone else's dream because we feel we're not worthy of our dreams. So we take on, let's say, the dream of our parents or the dream of someone, a hero, an incredible hero that has a dream that we want to follow. That's what's happening online, isn't it? A lot of heroes. But you're the hero. How are you the hero in your story? When you believe in yourself and you see your value and you can have this idea that there are no limits, then life can look different. But most of the time, we see a life of limitation. And that's because we look at what's showing up and we don't understand that we have influenced what's showing up. So we get kind of discouraged. And what are those limitations? Let's talk about those now. What are the biggest limitations that I have seen working with my patients and my clients over the years? The biggest limitation I've seen is fear. Fear is by far the most powerful force that prevents you from actually reaching a dream, because it puts you, by its very nature, in resistance. So when you're in fear, you're in resistance to manifesting what you really dream. Because in your subconscious, these fears are very powerful, and they actually have an impact on what manifests. There are two forces in the universe that are very powerful. The one is the force of expansion. You know what that feels like when you're happy and something really exciting happens and you feel free. You are just so expanded. But you also know what it feels like when you're afraid and you don't have the courage anymore to go forward, and you can't even think of your dream at this moment because you're so afraid. Well, when you're in that state, you're in a contracted state. So we want, in order to get what we really desire and get in touch with what we really desire, we want to get really more in the kind of the flow of expansion. And let's look at that now. What does that look like? So if I asked you, where are you in this process? Do you feel that your life is on your path? Do you feel this expansion and excitement for what you're doing? Or are you sort of, wow, contracted and feeling limited and seeing all the things show up that you don't want in your life? When you're feeling restricted and life is not actually showing up like you would like it to, we often see with clients that they're in sort of an indecisive loop. Because their life is not what they want it to be and things are not showing up as they wish them to, they start to get sort of frustrated. And they think, okay, I don't want this, so I don't know where to go. I feel lost and I feel stuck. And so the indecisive loop is about two feelings. One, that you're procrastinating because if you don't want more of what's showing up, you don't want to go. You feel like, oh, this is not what I want. So you start to get a feeling inside like, well, where do I go then? Do I dare? Do I even dare to go anywhere? And the thing is, we know we are energy. So when we have these thoughts, they're powerful and they actually influence our body. They actually make our body also feel stuck. So when you get stuck, your body and everything is sort of paralyzed. And that's weird, isn't it? But it's real, and it's a real feeling that we have inside. Now, we also don't want to make a mistake. So we procrastinate. Are we procrastinating because we don't want to make a mistake, or our energy stuck? Well, it's both usually. And the thing that I have learned is that when we stop judging ourselves, when we start looking at life as perfect, that it has to be a perfect, or we have to be perfect, then and only then can we be freer. We have to learn to be our authentic selves. We have to learn to be who we are with everything, with all the color, with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because that's who we are. We're not just perfect. And human beings actually, if they could learn this, if we could learn this, we would be so much more daring. Life is like a road winding, and we don't know where it's going to end up. If we only knew where it was going to end up, we could connect the dots, right? And we could go, oh, that happened because that happened and that happened. And so often we look back on our life and then we go, yeah, I know why I had to learn that, because I used that skill later when I did this bigger thing. Just like I'm doing this YouTube channel, I remember doing so many things. I did public speaking here and there, and I was learning skills, but I never knew I would be doing a YouTube channel. It's kind of funny, but it's also interesting because all the skills I've gained in my life are helping me with this purpose. The road is a funny thing. When we're going along the path, we can get off the path. We can become distracted. We need some mechanisms or tools to help us get back on our path. And the more conscious we become about this process, the better we are at recognizing when we actually are off the path. The funny other thing I've noticed is when I'm on the road and I'm going a certain way, I can be at the bottom of the hill. So at the bottom of the hill, you don't see very much, and you have to really have faith that you're going to get somewhere, even if you don't see it with your eyes or feel it with your heart. So you can become sort of, wow, here I am. I want to do this, and I want to go here on this road, and I want this to come into my life, but I don't see how that's possible because I'm at the bottom of the road. And the funny thing is, we have other times when we get to the top of the hill. And when we're at the top, we see more. We have more like helicopter view, let's say. And when we have this helicopter view, we really can see more, and we can have faith then, because we're like, oh, now I get it. Now I know where I'm going. This makes sense. So what it really comes down to is recognizing when you're at the bottom of the hill. So when you're at the bottom of the road, it's very important to have faith that even though you don't know where you're going, you're not exactly sure which direction to take. Maybe you're at a split in the road. You could go here, you could go there. You're not sure. The most important thing is to have faith that this will be revealed in time, that the bigger picture will come, and that the most important thing for you is to keep taking steps forward, to keep moving. How do you keep going forward? That's always the fun part. How do you keep taking those steps and having the courage to step one step at a time instead of no steps at all? Well, what I've come to see in my life is that breathing, taking a deep breath, can make a big difference at this moment when you're feeling this way. So breathing and walking, moving your body can help you to actually move your energy. So that's one thing. Now, those of you that move all the time, but yet you're not going anywhere, well, I think it's important to look at why you're doing what you're doing, why you're moving in all those directions, because most of the time we're moving in many directions, but we're off the path. So again, finding your path and being on your path is really about being in alignment, body, mind, and soul, with where you want to go. And in order to know where you want to go, you need to know who you are, what you desire, and how you're going to do that in your life, how you're going to find that and find that big mission or purpose. So many of us, when we're going on this road or path, we can get stuck for another reason. We start to think about all the things that have happened in our past, and we think about those all day long. And actually, there's one little trick about going forward. We don't actually go forward when we're in the past. When we're in the past, we are in the past. And when we talk about what somebody did to us, or what somebody made us feel like, or what some experience, maybe an accident we had in the past, when we're constantly there, we can't go forward, because we can only go forward when we're in the present moment. We can't also go forward when we're worried, when we're always thinking of the future, when we're thinking of what might happen with our path, or what might go wrong, what might, not work. So when we're in that state, well, that's also not going to be very helpful. So, and we see that over and over again. When we're in the past too much, we get sad, we get depressed. It's not a very uplifting place to live. So are you living in the past? Are you thinking all day about things that happened to you or journeys that you took? Because just like that road, you need to think about right now, what's in front of you, right here. And you can't also be worried about what's going to happen at the turn or the bend in the future, because it might not even happen and you're thinking about it all the time. So thinking about where you are right now is part of it. It's part of finding and doing your work, and doing it with a good feeling, and realizing that you are leading the story, because you can lead the story when you live in the moment. When you're on this path and you're going forward, it's really important to follow the path that makes you feel good, the path that has less resistance, the path that seems exciting and light, Like my story about being in the hospital. That was certainly my path at that time. So it made me feel joy. It made me feel alive. It made me feel like life was worth living. When you're following your dream and you feel excited, this is your path. When you're following your dream and you don't feel excited, then you need to reflect on why you're feeling like that. But you don't need to get stuck there. And so think about what makes you feel good. Follow it. It's powerful. This month, we are going to look more deeply at this theme of finding your purpose, finding what makes you feel good, your passion, how important this is in our lives. And we're going to look and have an interview with an entrepreneur who has really found her purpose and passion in helping other people find their purpose and passion. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for subscribing. So I want to ask you a little more about your business. We have to stop.
Let me in. I want to hear the interview with Alexandra too. Can I come, please?